In Alaska, nature's your next-door neighbor. Adventurers and pioneers from all around the world traveled here for a better life. And part of the excitement is the journey to get there. Here we have Dan Sullivan, an Alaskan Marine still in the reserves, who never stopped fighting for America and for Alaska.
You do a lot of travel with these executives, and most of the time, as many people see, they really just want to talk and hear themselves talk. Dan is not that way. He was about listening.
I forget that Dan has a law degree. I forget all the prestigious schools that he went to. He's just one of those guys that is so easy to talk to and have a conversation with, and you feel, he's one of us.
Well, up here in Alaska, I like the concept of the last frontier, the opportunity you have. This is probably one of the last places in America for me, and Dan knows this personally because he was raised on it with his wife, being from Fairbanks, is the last place in America you can go out and harvest a salmon. You can go out and hunt the deer, hunt the caribou. We still have the grizzly bears, the moose. There's a wilderness feeling here. There's a frontier feeling here. People really enjoy and they hold on to, and that's what brings up such a great sense of pride here in Alaska.
I'm Dan Sullivan, running for the United States Senate from the great state of Alaska. Well, like most Alaskans, I'm an American by birth, Alaskan by choice. After my first tour in the Marines, the active duty tour at Camp Pendleton, moved to Alaska. My wife and I were married in Alaska 20 years ago, started our family here and raised our daughters here. From that time until now, the only time I've left the state I love was to go serve the country I love. Well, I'm someone who has had the honor of serving my country and my state for much of my career. I served as Alaska's Attorney General, as the Commissioner of Natural Resources. After 9/11, I served in the Bush administration under Condoleezza Rice when she was Secretary of State. I was one of her Assistant Secretaries of State. I had the honor of being a U.S. Marine infantry officer for over 20 years now. The opportunities in Alaska are endless, limitless. You can't land on the ground in Alaska and look at just the open space, the beautiful country, the incredible people, and not have a feeling of energy and optimism.
We like to call ourselves Alaska Marines, and that epitomizes what people think about Alaska. Is you call yourself an Alaska Marine because you're a United States Marine, but you're also Alaska. And everybody loves being in Alaska up here. That's why people come here. If they aren't born here, we got here as soon as we could. I wasn't born here, but I got here as soon as I could.
After graduating from Harvard and getting a law degree from Georgetown University, you would think the next step is purely financial success. But there was something deeper that was driving Dan, the call to serve.
He was too old. He was above the bar. So what he did was he wrote a letter to the Commandant of the Marine Corps asking to be exempted from the age waiver. It was granted, and he went to Quantico. He could have gone into the JAG Corps, the legal corps, because he had a degree in law from Georgetown. However, he volunteered to be a Marine infantry officer, demonstrated to me, even before I'd met him, that this is somebody that you can get behind.
It's not an old man's game going through officer candidate school and the infantry officer course in the Marine Corps, but that was something I believed in, passionately, and something I did.
And it's something he's been doing his entire life, even while serving in office. As recently as 2013, he continues to serve.
The fact that he was serving in the Marine Reserves while he was serving as Attorney General completely jumped out at me because I thought that was fantastic. Here was someone that was a public servant already in the arena as an appointed official, but in addition he was also serving his country in the Marine Reserves.
A soldier willing to go the extra mile, willing to listen.
It's difficult to travel within the state. We recognize that we're Alaskans. We know that there's a lot of logistics that go into traveling, but what I remember was a turning point for me was when we did a trip in the interior and we went to travel in Ruby and Tanana, and how excited they were to have the Attorney General go and visit these villages. And he was amazing because there are a lot of tribal entities, there were city entities, there are borough entities, and they're not always getting along. And Dan was so sincere in meeting with all of them and talking about what he could do to unite them, what were solutions that all of them could possibly work on together, and if there were issues that divided them, what his role could be to bring folks together to the table.
That's something I believe strongly in. Listen, respect the voices, and then work together to try and resolve some of the problems and get ideas on how to resolve problems. Not them coming to you, but you going to them. And to me, that's an important part of serving your fellow citizens.
I remember how touched he was when the villagers in Ruby talked about he was the first Attorney General who had ever taken the time to come to Ruby. And he was so surprised by that because he thought, well, certainly we had elected officials and appointed officials visiting these areas all the time. And that was really special to hear them talk about, you came here, you spent 2 hours just listening, and he was so sincere and thorough, and that will stay with me. And I think it's at that time when we did that interior trip that I thought to myself, here is someone that I truly hope moves forward and decides to run for higher office.
In Alaska, we get there as fast as we can. But when you're there, you want to make a difference. A father, a soldier, an Alaskan. This is the type of place that defines a state of mind, to serve, to fight.
You know, I feel I was still serving my fellow Alaskans. I was just doing it from places like Baghdad or Kabul or Pakistan or Washington, D.C. And I think that's part of a strong tradition in Alaska, which was to serve your country, whether in the military or other ways. And hundreds, if not thousands, of Alaskans did that after 9/11 like I did.
It's part of his personality. He's a leader. And leaders don't divide. Leaders bring people together. That's how they're leaders.
There's a sense of duty, there's a sense of honor, and Dan epitomizes that.
I feel like he's, more of a friend, and he wants to help, and he wants to learn, and he wants to make things better for Alaska and our country.
A sense of duty, a sense of honor that goes above and beyond. Dan is someone who is always ready to serve. Yes, for his country, but also for home, for Alaska.